Welcome, everyone. Today we're talking about everything is so hard. Ugh. And I just want to, if you're here, congratulations on being willing to face the issues that come up. I know there's a lot of people that do law of attraction and abundance thinking and like, oh no, if I think everything's hard, it's going to be hard. It's like, no, life is sometimes challenging. Life happens. Let's figure out how to face that and deal with that. I'm Kathy Vertilli from the Intimacy Dojo of ThrivingNow.com, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Rick Wilkes from ThrivingNow. And I think for many of us, Rick and I were picking topics for this month, and we were just like, a lot of people have been writing in, like, things seem hard right now. I was laid off last week, totally unexpected, just like, had talked to my boss. Everyone's like, oh no, I think you're fine. Upper management looked at costs and just whacked people without talking to anyone technical, just made decisions. And we're like, okay, that feels really hard. I wasn't expecting to do that. And I think for a lot of us, as we come out of some of the pandemic and we're starting to go into our lives, things are not flowing as smoothly as we would love them to. So that's one of the reasons Rick and I chose this, because we know you're really courageous and we know that walking into the fire, sometimes we can clean things up and make them so that while life may be hard, we're choosing some of the hard that because of things we want. We'll talk about more about that. And there might be ways where we don't have to hold on to it. Maybe we were thinking that it had to be that way and we're kind of creating that. Maybe there's some ways we can relax a little bit and let things be a little more easy. So really, just if you're here, please take a minute to just see if you can actually tune into yourself and go, wow, that's pretty cool. I am the kind of person that would take a Sunday afternoon or evening or wherever you are. I'm the kind of person that would show up for a call like that. That is pretty awesome. Wow, I might be cooler than I thought. So yeah, if you can let that in, not just think it, but feel it, that's really good for ourselves.
I appreciate that. I'm showing up because I need this.
Oh yeah, poor baby and over.
Well, you know, you people that have read what I've shared in the newsletters and the emails and the invitation are hearing some of what goes on for me. I used to have a belief, and we're gonna be getting into this, like where it can be sourced from, but that if it wasn't easy and fun, that I was doing something wrong. A very natural compulsion inside of me kind of turned sharp and sour and like back on myself. And that was really hard. And it added to the hard things that I was doing. And so one of the things that my hope is to share some of what we practice in taking these, like, oh, this is hard. Oh, and then I'm stacking other things that are hard, like a belief or an attitude, like it should be easy. If I stack that on top of something that's hard, it's a lot harder now. And if I then stack on some hatred, self-hatred, and feelings like, okay, I'm not getting to it. I'm procrastinating. I'm failing at this. It's not working. Like now I'm adding even another layer of noise. And I know that if I address through tapping, EFT tapping is a tool that we use, it gives us an opportunity to speak a truth. Like, this is hard for me. That's a truth. And if you say that out loud, and I invite you to do this, this is hard for me. What's this? What comes to like your awareness first? Because it can be really helpful. The topic of the workshop is everything is so hard. Our first real skill is, can I let myself parse it down and give myself one thing I'm going to focus on for this?
We tend to, one way our survival brain tries to deal with things, if it thinks something's going to be too hard or we might fail at it, it will suddenly drag us to everything. because then we can't do anything about it. We'll just kind of go, oh my God, the whole world, like just stop in our tracks. So if you can, pick one thing, and I encourage you to write it down, because our brains, if we start looking at something that's tender, they bounce. Oh, it wasn't that. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to pick that. And then we never actually dig deep. We never really flex our muscles. So our muscles aren't getting stronger about clearing this. And then we're just kind of always feel weak about dealing with it. So if you can, let yourself pick one thing and write it down. Even if your brain starts, notice if your brain starts flailing around, oh, I picked the wrong thing. Just there, brain. We can listen to this recording later again. We can do a different topic later. But let's pick one. Let's just stay. It's almost like a meditation, for group meditation for an hour. We're going to pick one thing and stay with it. I'm going to choose my job searching, because that's what's really present for me. If you
I'm
want to
gonna
share,
I'm gonna choose Adira in distress, like when
yeah,
she's a miserable human, um, that comes up.
yeah,
And just to remind all of us in the circle right now, and I view us in a circle, even though we're on the kind of the squares in Zoom. Cathy and I are facilitating. You are a participant. You're an engager. You're a co-creator. So the chat is open, and you can share there, and that will influence others in the circle. It'll influence Cathy and I and where we go with this workshop. Um, I call them a real skill because it is an emotional skill to feel honestly like everything is just so hard, because
I
that's
think
an
just
emotion.
being willing to declare it out loud too is very, like, out loud. By putting in the chat, you're kind of like, I am standing with what I said. And so I think that there's a power in it. In a real skill is actually just declaring. If you're willing, you're allowed to have privacy, but putting it in the chat can help you stay present with it. And I think that a lot of the reason our society is so toxic is because we don't share things. We keep them hidden and quiet to ourselves, and then they kind of fester. And if we just put it down and we hear other people sharing too, it's like, oh, maybe there isn't something so awful about. So I don't know if I stepped on you at the end of that, Rick. Did you have something?
Yeah, I kind of lost it, but it's
Oh,
okay. It's okay to have things that are hard.
yeah.
Oh, so real skill. So one of the reasons we're having you pick one thing is that we know that part of the skill is if I take one thing, chances are it's going to also apply to other things. So if you pick something small that's hard for you, or something that's pervasive, big, and in your face that's hard for you, this process will work its way through your energy field as we do our tapping. ThrivingNow.com/tapping, if you're not familiar with that. Um, so by doing that and giving it a number, so like how hard does it feel to you when this thing, this one of the everything, like Adira in distress is an 8 or 9 for me.
I'm going to put it in the chat for you.
Thank you.
I can't type today. Yeah, so we're modeling for people. You said it was a 9 out of 10?
8 or 9. Let's call it 9. Today with the hives, it feels like a 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
think, oh,
go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah. I stepped on you already. What's,
um, where do you feel the hardness of it in your body? So one of the things about emotional freedom work is that we acknowledge that there's a lot of useful information in our head. There's also somatic information and information in energy in the body. Um, it can be like a lack of energy, like, oh, I just start feeling so heavy and helpless. It can be an anxious energy, like, ah, it can be a tension. Like for me, there's this emotional,
Yeah.
like that's the sound, this energy, emotional sound of, well, and it
Yeah.
feels really strong right here in my the base of my throat.
Would you lead some tapping on that? Just because I think that a lot of times when we feel that somatically, it's like we should we should do something different. We should run away. We should numb it out. Like we don't want to be with the feeling, but there's actually a lot of wisdom
Yeah.
there,
We start at the side of the hand. Um, Even though this is hard,
even though this is hard.
it is truly hard.
It is truly hard.
I'm acknowledging it's hard,
I'm acknowledging it's hard.
and I have my thoughts about it,
I have my thoughts about it,
and I have my feelings about it,
and I have my feelings about it,
and my body has an opinion about it.
and my body has an opinion about it.
I'm in the process of accepting
I'm in the process of accepting
where I am and how I feel.
where I am and how I feel.
Up the head. This is hard.
This is hard.
Eyebrow. This is hard.
This is hard.
Side of the eye. I may pretend it's not
I may pretend it's not.
under the eye, but the truth is it's hard.
But the truth is, it's hard.
Under the nose. This is hard.
This is hard.
Tim, this is hard for me.
This is hard for me.
Colon. This is hard for me, and my body has feelings about it.
This is hard for me, and my body has feelings about it.
The arm. This is hard for me,
This is hard for me,
and my body has feelings about it.
and my body has feelings about it.
Top of the head. And hard does not make it bad.
And hard does not make it bad.
Even if it feels crappy.
Even if it feels crappy. I think that was a beautiful segue, Rick. One of the things you mentioned earlier when we were talking about this is it's that I did something wrong. And we didn't put that as a major bullet point, but I think it actually is.
Yeah.
So I invite you, if it's okay with you, Rick, let's just, if we can do a little bit, to feel in whatever the topic was. Remember, go back to your topic, just like a meditation. Oh, I'm thinking about these other things. Come back to your topic.
Yeah.
And think about what you did. Like, is there a sense I did something wrong? I think for a lot of people that follow, again, abundance thinking, law of attraction, any of those, it's like, oh, you're supposed to keep your thoughts on the positive and you should never feel bad. And there's a bunch of, there's been some of that, the Tantra field too. You should always be joyful and full of bliss. And I'm like, no, that's just shaming people. That's toxic positivity. We are allowed to, like, we have experiences, good and bad. And I think that there's a lot of cultural, like, if you did things right, these bad things wouldn't happen. I still remember being a little kid, walking around, I stubbed my toe and I wanted a little sympathy. And my mom's like, if you've been wearing slippers, that wouldn't have happened, because she always wanted us to wear slippers. And I'm like, you know what? I think it still would have hurt. Slippers aren't that hard. But like there was an implied, this, if you'd done something different, if you'd been good or you'd been mindful or if you'd done things right, this wouldn't happen. And I think for parents, like Rick's talking about his kid, like, could I have done something different or better? Could I have kept her safer? For me, could I have been so outstanding at my job that they would never consider laying me off? Like, I think there's some of a boomerang there. And other people will often do that so they don't have to be present with our feelings. So if I tell you it's your own fault or I told you should have done something different, I'm taking this feeling between us where we're actually connected and intimate, where we're just being with each other in the feelings, and I'm boomeranging it back at you. I was like, your fault. I'm not gonna be present with these feelings with you.
Okay, I'm in it, so let's tap.
All right, are you gonna lead it or you want?
You lead it. I'm in it.
Karate chop. Even though part of me is certain I did something wrong.
Even though a part of me is certain I did something wrong.
I wouldn't feel this bad unless I did something wrong.
I wouldn't feel this bad if I hadn't done something wrong.
I'd really like to feel better.
I'd really like to feel better.
And maybe me blaming myself is part of the feeling of bad.
Pretty sure blaming myself is part of the feeling of it being bad.
Top of the head. Top of the head. My younger selves want to think everything is black and white.
My younger self thinks everything is black and white.
Eyebrow, if I was just good enough, I would never hurt.
If I was just good enough, I would never hurt and they would never hurt.
Side of the eye, if I was a good enough person, they would never reject me.
If I was a good enough person, they would never reject me.
Under the eye, if I was a good enough person, people I love would never hurt.
If I was a good enough person, people I love would never hurt or die.
Under the nose, my business would go perfectly.
My business would go perfectly.
Chin, my health would be fine.
My health would be fine.
Collarbone, no one would ever be dissatisfied with me.
No one would ever be dissatisfied with me.
Under the arm, that's an ever-moving target.
That's a what?
An ever-moving target.
That's a painfully hard moving target.
Yeah. Top of the head. I don't think I can ever be that good.
I know I can never be that good.
Eyebrow, and that just adds a lot of stress to my body.
And that's adding a lot of stress to my body.
Side of the eye, this is already hard.
This is already hard.
Under the eye, and then I'm saying it's my own fault.
And then I'm saying it's my fault.
Under the nose, maybe there are things I could do differently.
I'm guessing there are some things I could do differently now.
Chin, and sometimes things are just challenging.
And sometimes things just are challenging.
Collarbone, what if I didn't do anything wrong?
What if I didn't do anything wrong?
Under the arm, what if I did do something wrong?
What if I did do something wrong?
Top of the head, do I deserve to be punished more?
Do I deserve to punish myself more?
Do I need to make this harder?
Do I really need to make this harder?
Just take a breath.
It's hard enough.
Yeah, it's already hard enough. I think that it's hard when I don't know, I shouldn't speak for everyone, but for myself and a lot of people I've spoken to, that reflex to blame ourselves is so automatic and quick. It's like happens really fast. So it's hard for us to like even discern that it's happening. Yesterday my teeth started hurting. I thought I was all caught up with my dental stuff, and yesterday my teeth started hurting, and I was like, I was beating myself up all day, and I felt like awful. And when I finally noticed I was beating myself up and kind of just caught it, did a little tapping on it, I felt a lot better, even though the penicillin hadn't had time to kick in. It was like, oh, when I wasn't beating myself on top of the tooth pain, I felt remarkably better. So if you can start parsing that out, it can be really useful.
Yeah. So like this little piece of the real skill is, am I beating myself? Am I being hard on myself and adding to the hardness? And if you are, well, you're human. Our primitive brain, the part of us that is interested in survival, has a compulsion. It wants to find things that are the least effort, because in animal terms, effort is related to survival. So if you expend too much effort for not enough value, guess what? You won't make it. You see this with cheetahs, really fast little kitties, and they don't succeed all that often. And so there's this like effort and success. So our cheetah mind, our lizard brain, our monkey mind, they're all, the primitive brain is involved in this. And so as the thing is that the primitive brain can look at something as being too hard when it actually matters to us. It actually matters. Someone talked about like holding space for a daughter who's going through a sequence of really hard situations, and they're not regulated. Like they can't hold their regulation. Holding space for co-regulation, it's often a parent's job, and it often continues forever. Because like if we're a good, hearty person, the people that love and care for us are going to turn to us for co-regulation, a fancy term for you help me feel safe enough that I've got some of my resource coming back. I've got a chance to be clear and I've got a chance to do this hard stuff. Even if I wish I didn't have it, I have some more resource inside me. I feel your connection and support. So, I'd like to lead a tapping on like acknowledging that this is this is part of our system. Does that feel good to you?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Side of the hand. Even though part of me
Even though part of me
doesn't want to do hard,
doesn't want to do hard,
has to be convinced.
it has to be convinced.
Maybe it has to be prodded.
Maybe it has to be prodded.
Maybe it has to get really hungry,
Maybe it has to get really
or
hungry,
really scared,
or really scared,
or really guilted.
or really guilted.
Ah, some things are hard,
Some things are hard,
and some things are hard and really matter to me.
and some things are hard and really matter to me.
Top of the head. Now, think about what you're tuned to that's hard. Does it matter to you? Like, it matters for my survival.
It
Right.
matters for my survival.
Eyebrow. It matters for my thriving.
It matters for my thriving.
Side of the eye. It matters for the well-being of myself and others.
It matters for the well-being of myself and others.
Under the eye. And it's hard.
And it's hard.
Under the nose. And it's hard.
And it's hard.
And hey, primitive brain.
Hey, primitive brain.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Under the arm. And this is why it matters anyway.
And this is why it matters anyway.
Top of the head. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
And this is why it matters anyway.
And this is why it matters anyway.
So notice what I like for those of you that are really wanting to develop this as a skill. Notice what I did there. It's hard. And this is why it matters anyway. That's leaving an open end. And I'm going to invite you to jot down a reason or two. Why does this matter to you? Like for me with Adira, I love her and want her relief and well-being. Like tears to my eyes. I want her relief. I want her well-being. It matters to me. And it's really hard. But the hardness, and this is where you, as you write those down, notice if the hardness starts changing in complexion.
Yeah. I'd like to anchor something you said earlier, because I think it's really important. We have different parts of our brain. We have our survival brain that is looking for the easiest way to get the resources we need. That's its job. It needs to limit the energy we expend because then it has enough energy to run away from a tiger. So if one meadow has really easy to reach berries that are in the middle of a thorny bush and it's not an easy walk, and another meadow has a few berries and it's a hard walk, it's going to compare and it's going to say we should always go the easy way. It's always going to want the easy way because it's just looking at how much we have to expend to how much we get in. And then there's a prefrontal cortex that likes to plan and do things that are bigger and more important. And it's not just caring about like how many blueberries we get today. It's worried about like, how can I make either my life or those I love or my community or the world a better place? It wants to like leave something behind that's better. So that's when it's not just looking at the easiest path, which might be like someone shared about their sister after they got a big, I don't want to give too many details away, but the person that shared said they got an indicator of their skill in self-defense, and then the sister wasn't feeling safe with them, and there's all these guilt and grief or just grief, I guess. I'm sorry, I was reading guilt, but that's not there. And then injury and pain that comes up. So like the survival brain might be like, let's just ignore that sister, or, it just might be hiding and trying to run away from the pain versus this is important. I want to be close to family. Being close to family for me, some of my family is not easy. They're quite hard. And I care about them, so I want to try to find ways I could be close. And I'm curious about the person who shared that. You're the same person before and after you got the belt. And for your sister to suddenly have that fear because you got the belt, maybe they're jealous or insecure about something, but you didn't change really. You got a belt, but you're still the same person all the way through. For them to suddenly have a response might mean there's something else going on around
Yeah.
that. Because yeah, I was struck by that. So thank you. Um,
Well, and this is where also we're checking in with our body. So if sometimes like a knee pain or body pain is not actually connected energetically to what's a specific thing that's
it
hard.
could be though. It could be like if I'm injured, I can't be a threat to anyone. Then they don't have to feel unsafe around me.
And that's part of the skill here is to inquire. So, for example, like, where does this hard thing live in your body now? What are you noticing? Like, there's this, oh, my shoulder's starting to hurt. And if you put your hand or even both hands, if you can, or put your attention on that part of you, there there can be an inquiry. What about this is hard for my shoulder? Now, the answer that I get, and I'm going to pause here as you attune to yourself for a moment. Yeah, I want to protect her from hard things.
Hmm.
Uh, Suddenly, the wise part of me goes, "Oh, buddy, I love you. You're such a, of course you do." And that's not, going to be perfectly possible. So,
Oh, and actually, you could probably serve her better by helping her learn how to deal with some of the hard things that come up.
right. Um, if you get a blank from some part of your body as you tune to something that's hard and you're just aware of the part of your body, but you inquire and you don't get an answer, I'm going to invite the possibility that right here, right now, while we're in circle, is not the place for you to get that information, perhaps, and that later, um, even tonight or tomorrow, tuning back into that part of your body. Um, to inquire just a little bit more deeply, sort of like if you're out and about and you ask your buddy who's got this weird look on his face, "Hey, how are you doing?" You look, "I'm fine." You kind of know that is a that is not necessarily the deeper truth. And later you could say, I respect that you said you're fine and you may not want to add anything more to it, but hey, shoulder, what is there something you'd like me to know about this hard thing? It could be a trauma, like it just reminds me of dot dot dot. Or it could be a deeper emotion that is right for you to be with in your solitude or with connection to your furry friend or less furry friend. Whatever is right for you. Okay, so wanted to share that.
Yeah. So if you want to share, ask yourself like if you're feeling some of that. Like I notice when we were tuning in, I get a lot of pressure and tension in my solar plexus. So when I was just kind of tuning in, it was like, oh, I'm job hunting. What if nobody wants me? Like I'm pretty well known in the field. I'm like hoping that I get a job right away. But what if, there's that fear. What if I'm rejected? What if like I'm not as good as I thought I was, which is like a fear a lot of people have when they job hunt. Like, what if I'm not a good match for something? And just noticing it and making it conscious gives us more leverage with it. While it's just kind of spinning in the background, maybe just below awareness, it can drive us pretty hard. But otherwise, like I can come up and I can call Rick up and say, you know what, I'm feeling insecure. I have to send some resumes out. Can we tap for 5 minutes on this insecurity? I'm afraid no one will want me. And maybe no one will, but at least it's conscious now and I can go out there and do my best to find a good position. Otherwise, it's just running in the background and I don't know why I'm running away from this, or like I keep doing it. Like I'll do it in 10 minutes, and then it's the next day and I haven't sent out any resumes, if that makes sense, as an example.
Mhm.
Um,
So pausing for a moment is see if your body needs some grounding. Like I'm noticing my energy's up, so I'm going to let gravity work for a moment. That's a little shortcut skill of letting gravity do a little more of the work. When we sit, we often tighten our muscles, our butt, our lift ourselves. See, I can lift myself just using my own energy. Well, that happens progressively as we sometimes are tuning into hard work, hard things, and letting gravity do a little more of the work. It resets our system.
yeah. And someone shared they're beginning to disassociate. If that's happening, you don't have to push harder. It might be that it's, like as we go forward and you've tuned yourself there, you've noticed you're feeling disassociated, which means probably part of your system feels overwhelmed at looking at this. And that's okay. You've already tuned in. Your subconscious might burble things up over the next day or two. And you don't have to when things are hard, we'll talk about this a little bit, but there's ways to break it down and make it easier, to baby step it. So while something could be challenging, we may take on something that feels like it's a big thing and that feels scary. We don't have to add extra burden, and we can actually figure out ways to make the steps seem doable. So we can break it down so that we get stronger and we can do this. And what Rick talked about a minute ago about knowing why. Who do you want to do this for? Why do you want to do this? We'll go into that a little more too. That can make a really big difference.
I'd like to lead a tapping on acceptance because this is,
A big,
and I'm drawn to do, which is sort of like yes, no, contrast tapping. So you'll notice that. You might like it to try if you, and also if your body is telling you, I've received enough information for right now and I need to pause, know that this is being recorded so you can pause and come back to it. If that's your yes, we always invite people to take care of themselves.
and I'm putting in the grounding exercises. If you start feeling overwhelmed, there's a link there.
Yeah. Even though this is hard,
Even though this is hard,
I accept that it's actually hard for me.
I accept that it's actually hard for me.
Hold on a second.
Can you say that again?
Even though it's hard to say anything when she's listening.
It's hard to say anything when she's listening.
No, even though it's hard,
Even though it's hard,
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
Even though this shouldn't be hard,
Even though this shouldn't be hard,
I refuse to accept myself.
I refuse to accept myself.
Even though it's hard,
Even though it's hard,
that's unacceptable.
that's unacceptable.
Even though it's hard,
Even though it's hard,
it's even harder for some.
it's even harder for some.
Even though it's hard,
Even though it's hard,
it should be easy for me.
it should be easier for me.
Top of the head. It should be easy for me.
It should be easy for me.
Eyebrow. I should be better at this.
I should be better at this.
By the eye. With my parents? No, I shouldn't.
With my parents, no, I shouldn't.
Under the eye. I'm really doing well with this.
I'm really doing well with this.
Under those. No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
Chin should be easy.
It should be easy.
Hold on. This shouldn't be hard.
This shouldn't be hard.
Under the arm. It is hard.
It is hard.
Top of it. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
I'm just making it hard.
I'm just making it hard.
Eyebrow. Actually, It is hard for me.
Actually, it is hard for me.
And I'm in the process of accepting myself.
And I'm in the process of accepting myself.
Yeah, it's scary to accept myself.
It's scary to accept myself.
It's hard to accept myself.
It's hard to accept myself.
And it's hard to accept how little I accept myself sometimes.
It's hard to accept how little I accept myself sometimes.
Collarbone. Being human can be really hard.
Being human can be really hard.
And this thing is hard for me.
And this thing is hard for me.
Up ahead. And I have some good reasons why it's hard.
And I have some good reasons why it's hard.
Now, having there, and I'm going to invite you to, I believe that there are qualities of you that you actually embrace and appreciate that probably make this hard for you. For example, if you worked really hard to change a belief that things have to be hard, because that is a belief, it could be very hard to shift it. And you've done that, right? And now you're up against things that are actually hard. It can be hard. I mean, one of the good qualities is I am capable and willing to look at the beliefs and patterns and change them, even though it's hard. And even though, guess what? I may have to circle back and back and back. If I was a narcissistic dad who didn't care about my kids, guess what? This would not be a problem if she's in distress. It'd be like, take care of myself, do what's right for me. But I'm a caring dad. And so it makes it harder. I care about people's freedom and safety. So when I see things that aren't freedom and safety, I care for love relationships. I think kinships and deep relationships are really important. So hearing that sisters are not in loving connection and support, that's like, oh. And the emotional labor to be with that is like for me, and I know if you don't care about kinship, it's like, oh, thank goodness, I'm free of my sister. If you care about kinship, if you care about love, if you care about doing competent work, there's emotional labor. Emotional is energy that you're going to put into it. And maybe your back too. Maybe your brain, your competency, and other things. Those are good. They're good qualities that you bring to something that's hard. And it also can be like why it is actually hard for you.
Well,
guess what? You're around someone who's in distress. It is going to be, there's more information coming into your system than someone who is on the other end of the empath scale. So I could honestly say that there are situations that are hard for me. Doesn't make them bad, but they're hard for me because I'm auditorily sensitive, because I'm sensitive energetically, and honoring the good qualities that also contribute to not only being hard, but maybe why something is important to you. Does that make sense, folks? I'd love to hear in the chat.
It makes a lot of sense to me, and I'd love to hear in the chat. But like one person shared their mother passed away suddenly, and they're dealing with their grief, but they're also executor of the will and trying to get that motivated. I know that sometimes when I was dealing with my dad's will, I was co-executor, there was part of me, I didn't realize that it took a while for me to realize I didn't want to finish, because if I got it done, if I started it and got it done, that was a link to him. Somehow I felt like I was less close to him. So by having to still do that, having that be like in my to-do list, I felt closer and more connected. And so there was part of me that didn't want to give that up. And so I had to tap on the grief and clear some things to actually be able to move forward more. I was blocking myself because I didn't want to lose a perceived connection to him. And once I realized that connection was there, whether I had executive tasks to do or not, it was not so hard. So sometimes can have subconscious beliefs or blocks that if we get this thing done, so it's something to ask yourself, if I get this hard thing done, or if I fix whatever is hard, what will I lose? What's the downside of getting it done? And, you know, logically you might not have anything, but if you just can be with yourself for a moment and let yourself just really be honest, you might be surprised. There might be something that's pretty big there. You may not feel safe. You may not feel like you deserve it. You may feel like you'll lose something that's important if you do this hard thing or fix whatever's hard. It's a way to stay connected. Um,
So we'll be taking, yeah, go ahead.
I think someone shared, I thought this was really good. I think I've made hard a bad thing when it just may be a natural part of life. And I think it is.
Would you like to lead a tapping on,
Yeah,
like, what if hard is a natural part of life?
karate chop. I thought hard meant I wasn't smart enough
I thought hard meant I wasn't smart enough
or maybe strong enough.
or maybe strong enough.
I thought if it was hard, there was something wrong with me.
I thought if it was hard, there was something wrong with me,
What if
the
we could,
situation.
yeah, or the situation, yeah. What if I can choose hard things no matter how strong, smart, or aligned I am?
What if I can choose hard things, no matter how smart, strong, and aligned I am?
What if sometimes hard things occur no matter what?
And what if hard things occur no matter what?
Top of the head. I thought it meant that I wasn't good enough.
I thought it meant I wasn't good enough.
Eyebrow. If I just thought about it a little harder.
I just thought about it a little harder,
Side of the eye, or tried a little harder.
or tried a little harder, a lot harder.
Under the eye. This wouldn't be so hard.
This wouldn't be so hard.
Under the nose. But some of the things that are really worthwhile in life are challenging.
A lot of the things that are worthwhile in life are challenging.
Chin. And sometimes life things are challenging.
And sometimes life things are challenging.
Collarbone. What if hard is a natural part of life sometimes?
Hard is a natural part of life sometimes.
Under the arm. I can learn how to make it a little bit easier sometimes.
I can learn to make it a little easier sometimes.
Top of the head. And I can also develop the muscles to make it through the hard times.
And I can also develop the muscles to get through the hard times,
Just
like
take
we're doing right now.
Yeah. Nice deep breath. This is someone shared it. They are tired of having to go back and forth in the same subject. And someone else, yeah, the hard problems have a way of biting me in the butt over and over. I do think that the universe brings things back around when we haven't cleared something or haven't acknowledged something. And maybe that's illusional thinking, but I do like, I think that the universe sometimes brings us opportunities to clear things, and quote unquote, because at the time they don't feel like opportunities at all. But I do believe we live in a loving universe that sometimes is like, hey, I know this is important to you. Let me give you another way to look at this. Let me give you another opportunity to clear this old thing from your past so that you can have freedom going forward. It doesn't mean things won't be hard, but I think there's a difference between this is a challenging thing to do on the one hand, or I'm dealing with old traumas and beliefs that are making like there's cinder blocks and they're attached to me and I'm like trying to move forward and like I'm already going uphill because the thing was challenging and now I have all these cinder blocks of old trauma that I'm trying to like pull up the hill with me. I love that we can use tapping and clearing and sharing here to like go, oh, I don't need that cinder block. Oh, I don't need that cinder block either. Like, oh, I'm just dealing with the fact we're going uphill because this thing is something I really want to achieve. So I know that sometimes things come back around and I'm always like, what did I miss? And I'm not always sure what the answer is, but I do think sometimes there's something there that we haven't cleared or we could look at it in a different way. And I know the universe has had to like get my attention sometimes and more times than I care to admit before I would see something. So I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Right. we've done other work around expectations, for example, and if so, one of the and you pointed to some suffering that can happen. If my vibration is right, then everything will be easy. I will be in the vortex. Everything will be fine.
Nah.
And my cat died. Now,
Yeah.
you're a loved friend, family member, animal, actor, actress. People die. And if your expectation is that if I tune myself this way, then it'll be easy. To me, that is something that can bite us over and over and over again. I'm giving an example of something. And I went through a little bit of that sweet delusion stage because honestly, if you're tuning your vibration to places of thriving, you're starting to notice things that are pleasing to you and bring you joy and things, and you weren't before. It feels like magic, and that continues. And then there are things also that are hard, and this is part of like the emotional skill of is this hard? Well, it's hard for me because trauma. So, like Cathy said, um, it is dramatically easier for me to have relationships with women than with men. I have an abuse history that involved men. My nervous system is dramatically more like you could say that with women, I trust them until they prove themselves to be untrustworthy. And with men, I don't trust them until they prove themselves to be trustworthy. Very vulnerable for me to share that. And it makes it hard for me to develop relationships with men. Now, it matters to me because I am one and I want to cultivate relationships with men, and I do. But it's harder for me to do that, my nervous system. So the work that I've done on the trauma has actually made it possible for me to trust men. And then for me to get to a place where actually I can start feeling into a man's energy pretty early. Like, are they safe and respectful? Are they safe and respectful to the other people in their life? Oh, actually they are. I start to relax. I start to be more open and calm. I start to go deeper and that right distance, right depth. So anything that's hard for us, I believe that acceptance is really useful, and the awareness of like, it's hard for me because this plays into that trauma. This plays into that beautiful sensitivity that I'm still trying to figure out how to manage. This plays into I'm repulsed by the fact that this situation even exists in the world because I want to live in a world that's different than that. Each of those things gives us an opportunity to move our energy through sharing, through teaching, through self-reflection, through confidences that can hear our truth, that can help us make it a little less hard. So that's some of the dynamics. And as I look at the landscape, thunderstorms come through pretty regularly this time of year. It's hard to schedule something outside for a specific time because there are going to be thunderstorms. And that's, my ecosystem of thriving includes our capacity to acknowledge that, yeah, that's hard. That's hard for humans. That's hard for me. And there's an amplifier on it based upon my gifts and sensitivities and my traumas. It makes it hard, but it's not bad. This is hard because it's actually bad for me. I could tell that this does not serve my well-being. This does not serve my thriving. I really want that to change. That's a different kind of hard, and I'm kind of slogging or working through it. So.
Yeah.
I'd like,
Thank you
and I
for
also want to
sharing.
take our break here in just a minute. Is there something that you'd like to prepare us for the break?
I invite you over this time, like let yourself feel what's coming up. If you can be mindful, notice what you need, like food, water, bathroom breaks, but also see what's burbling for you. Like sometimes when we're not directly focused, things pop to the surface, and just jotting them down because some of them are elusive. We think we'll remember, and then 2 minutes later, we're like, what was that?" Jotting them down can help anchor them in there. If they're in your cognitive brain, we have more leverage, and we want you to have leverage on this. So thank you all for your courage. And I love the shares. They're so powerful.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you want to pause the recording?
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm pausing the recording. Zoom. So welcome back, everyone. I think this is really important. Rick wrote, I have to be prepared for the other shoe. To me, that is what it's the primitive brain wanting to be prepared. The skill is allowing the thriving while honoring the surviving. It is hard to have less power to choose and be free when we crave and mustering courage to be vulnerable. I think that's just really important because I do have, when I was surprised when they laid us off, there was a part of me that beat myself up. There's a part of me that's one of my favorite phrases. I should have known. I should have paid attention enough to the environment and things around. And it comes from having a time when I was young when things were surprising, kind of overwhelming. But there's part of my brain that thinks I should have known. So anytime I'm surprised, I beat myself up. And I think when things are challenging, often we go to that refrain. That's a real big one. I should have known. I should have been prepared. I should have anticipated this. And our survival brain would love it if we could always anticipate everything. It does not like negative surprises because it can't plan and preserve resources for that. So if you can, just notice. For a long time, I thought everyone felt that way. And I realized not everybody does. Like, it's okay to be surprised sometimes by negative things. It doesn't feel good. But if I don't pile on the judgment, the self-judgment that I should have known, I should have been prepared for every possible outcome when some of them aren't very likely, we can spend so much resources trying to prepare for any possible negative outcome that we don't have room, as Rick said, to be in the thriving, in the joy of the day to day. We're so busy stuffing things into the basement that might preserve us if the zombie apocalypse comes that we don't get to enjoy right here and right now. So I just thought that was important. I wanted to share that with what you'd said there. And someone said, I'm feeling vulnerable saying this, but when you said the universe brings things back to us to help us let go, I want to say, fuck the universe or F the universe. I often will tell the universe, I hate it. I'm mad at it. Fuck the universe. Both double fingers, whatever. It's okay. I think the universe loves us anyway. I think the universe is just like a very loving parent that's like, many of us didn't have those kind of parents, but like, okay, you can hate me. I still love you. I'm still going to be there for you. And Jean, I don't know if that's all true. This is my theory on some of these things. So you're welcome to toss out what you like. So,
And I'll just say that I have seen memes that talk about how something will keep coming back to you until you learn the lesson in it. And there's a part of me that gets very like, and I believe that there's a different level of wisdom for me, which is that there are certain things that are a part of being human. Just like if I'm a tree, wind is going to be a part of being a tree. Bugs eating me, going to be a part of being a tree. The ground sometimes being so wet that I might even fall over. There are things that are clearly, if I look at the arc of my life, there are things that keep coming back over and over again. The loss of loved ones, someone mentioned, that's really hard.
yeah,
And
it really
I
is.
don't, there are segments of our life where we might not have someone that we lose. And there are some people where that is such a repeated thing. Health challenges, um, I Abraham talks about being happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. Well, I've got a wart on my foot that I cannot get rid of in any of the normal ways that people recommend. It's frustrating, it's hard, and it's a little deal, but it's still part of my ecosystem. And so as we look at, what is our conceptual framework for thriving and these real skills? Part of it is, it feels good to me to believe that the universe isn't out to get me. Like, I don't think that the tree that fell down when it was really raining, that the rain was out to get it and to inflict harm on it, and it fell over and it's not going to recover. Obviously, it's a big, formerly healthy tree that grew in certain soil. If
Yeah.
I have the expectation that I'm doing something wrong, or I should have, like Cathy said, if you have a reflexive reaction from trauma, I should have seen that coming. I should have known another shoe was going to drop. And that adds to the hardness. I believe that we can continue to shift that. And getting laid off, competent people are being laid off every single day that have, I'm not saying that to make anyone scared, but if you believe that if I just do everything perfectly and right and competently, that you won't get laid off, that's actually setting yourself up for a really hard situation. The same token, feeling like it's your fault adds to it. And this is part of our work, is what do humans actually have to, meaning these are natural things that are part of our emotional weather system, our life and death cycle. What are those things? What's hard? What do we have to muster our courage and support and resources to get through? What do we do to support and share the wisdom around survival and share the wisdom around thriving? Those are I was writing about wisdom today, and I believe that our wisdom around survival is yeah, expect another shoe. But I have two shoes. If I take one off, the other one's going to get taken off. Tomorrow I'm going to put it back on. And guess what? I'm going to take one of the shoes off, and the next one is going to drop shortly thereafter. I very rarely drop. And so yeah, things happen to us as humans. Being resilient and prepared is I am taking time to be with the good qualities that I demonstrate by taking on these hard things.
I think there's some people that kind of, this is our lot in life. We have to be miserable. And I think there's a difference between hard and miserable. We can choose hard things. We can, we could try to go through our life the easiest way possible, but I think that when we can create more if we're willing to walk into the hard. And yeah, there's sometimes things are just hard, but we don't have to suffer. The suffering and the hard are not the same thing. We don't have to, I think we conflate them a lot in our society. And what Rick's talking about is yeah, we can choose hard, and sometimes hard will choose us, and we can separate the suffering and figure out ways to make the challenging things a little bit easier to step into. Am I saying that in a clear way, Rick?
Yeah. When you have a toddler, you realize how often suffering visits a human who's not.
Oh, when I told her she couldn't draw on the walls, oh my God, the misery of that small, she asked very politely and I was like, no. And she asked politely again and I said, no. And she fell on the floor and I've never seen a child in child's pose before, collapsed and sobbing her heart out. And I'm like, I'm the world's worst aunt. It was so hard to be with her because it was so horrific for her that she couldn't have these great gray walls. Why wouldn't you color them? So it does. And I do think that sometimes when we work through things in a very mindful way, we heal things that make thriving harder, the joyful days harder. And I think a lot of us were brought up with people that maybe tried their best but didn't have a lot of skills in working through. My parents did not know how to deal with sadness or disappointment. They're just like, get over it. I'll give you something to cry about. Go play. Here's a cookie. It wasn't like, oh, wow, that's a lot. And I watch Rick with Adira, and he's like, it's okay, honey. You get to feel this. I love you. It'll get better. Just feel, it's okay to feel this way. And I'm like, I wish someone said that to me when I was little. So a lot of us didn't have the skills to clear out our system and kind of understand that, oh, these feelings pass. If we can just be with them, if we share them with a friend, they become lighter. So I love the idea of clearing that, making things making the hard less miserable.
It is hard to hold space. And since that's my thing that I wrote down, I'm noticing that Adira in distress, as you and I have been sharing and we've been talking, like my throat's very different. My shoulder feels like, of course, I want to protect her, and we'll be in balance best we can. And there's another energy rising, which is around like, yeah, it is hard to hold space. It's emotional labor. Sometimes we don't have as much capacity for that as we'd like. I invite you to check in, like, how is this thing that you've been focused on from the beginning of our workshop? How intense is it now? There's nothing, you haven't done anything wrong if it feels more intense because we've been engaging with it. For me, like, I feel more resourced and capable. So whereas it was like a 9, it's more like okay, it's a hard 6, meaning with my nature, may not be easy. And I feel more solid. You might even notice it in my voice. Like I feel more solid.
Yeah, I'm noticing I don't feel, it's probably went from like an 8 to a 5 or 6, where just like, oh, yeah, some people, I'm not going to be the right fit for some people. And for some people, I might be a really good fit. And maybe that's great.
Well, they're not going to be a great fit for you, right?
So it's a mutual no, not this person. She's going to want to talk about stuff.
We got a chance to get Cathy now. Oh my gosh. Oh, you have no chance of getting me to work for you. So with the time we have, if you can get something so that it feels hard and the distress level is really high, and you calm the noise enough that you get down to a place where your body mind is starting to feel like, okay, I actually have a sense of my resource coming back to me. From an energy perspective, you're shifting out of your primitive brain and more into your core resourcefulness. You may even find yourself like touching your belly and like your legs. You can kind of push, activate your muscles more. There's hard things that are running around in our head only and not embodied are going to, like, your brain is not good at chopping wood alone. It kind of needs other parts. And emotional labor, if my brain and my eyes are looking and my ears are taking in all this energy, but my heart and legs and hamstrings are not in the building, it's not going to feel, I'm not going to feel resourced. And it's at this moment, as your body starts shifting, and hopefully it is for you too, that you can ask a question like, well, what could make this a bit more fun and easy or meaningful? Fun, easy, meaningful.
And please notice that if you actually you're not feeling better, or maybe it feels more intense, you might just be undisassociating. You might be reassociating with your body. Just like if we have a shoe that's too tight, sometimes after a while we numb out and it just kind of gets numb. we're not really noticing, but when we take off the shoe, it actually can hurt a little more at first. That doesn't mean you're going the wrong direction. It actually means you're being more present with your system. And it's part of the healing process. So I know some people are like, oh, it got a little more intense. Ugh, am I doing something wrong? No, you're probably doing things really right.
If you need to pause and just keep tapping on the things that are like hard about it and what your noise is to calm your energy, please feel free to do that. When you ask, like, well, what could make this a bit more fun, easy, and meaningful? I'll give you an example. So Cathy was planning on being here on the East Coast, and plans have changed, and that's hard on, like, our hearts feel like that's what mine feels like. And before the call, we talked about co-working. Now, co-working says we might be both working on some hard things, but just not necessarily the same hard thing. Like, and we just get on Skype and we have our video and we can talk, we can share, we can ask a question, we can ask for support. And it's a way of being in space. And yesterday I went for my walk and I was like, oh, I miss her. And we just talked while I walked.
It was really fun.
And it was really good for both of us. I was feeling like it was really hard for me to take the time out to go to walk because I needed to get back home. I couldn't go to the place I wanted to. And when I acknowledged, like, okay, yeah, and it matters to me to get home to tend to this, what could make it feel a little bit more fun? Oh, I wonder if Cathy's available to go for a walk. This says I'm doing something, maybe it's hard, and I'm adding this something that matters to me, this thriving, or even if it's not thriving, it's supportive. It's like, oh, what comes to mind as you all, if you'd like to share, as you think about, your item, what could make it just a bit more fun, easy, or meaningful?
And let yourself be creative. It may not, if it doesn't make logical sense, that's even better because you're giving yourself support at a very primal level. I think for me, the co-working is really big. Someone said being here to participate today is doing that. Sometimes if I have to clean my house, I'll put on angry girl music, like some of Pink during her rebellious time. I'll put that on, and half the time I'm like driving, I'm vacuuming, I'm doing all the things, and it's like done. And I'm like, oh, that was not hard. Whereas before it was like, so that's not like a logical thing. I'm not being super mindful, but I'm just like, oh, I gotta clean the dishes. I don't know. Just I'd like to think outside the box and let it be playful. If anyone wants to share, you're welcome to. Because I think sometimes we see what other people are doing and we're like, oh, I didn't think of that. That's pretty cool. I could do that. Kickboxing.
Or maybe get one of those blow up, like when I was a kid, I had a blow up clown with a weighted bottom, and you could whack it in the nose and it would go down and then come right back up. I kind of think I need one of those.
I can view my inches as a game, and I'm the main actor in this dreamscape I call life. It can be whoever I imagine. Yeah, I love that. Some people have talked about, like, if you're trying to walk with more power, imagine you're a panther. And I do walk different if I imagine I'm a panther. Like, can the panther vacuum the house? Can the panther do the walking? I just got a Lord of the Rings walking challenge too, because I want to be walking more. So I'm going to walk across the Shire because I love Lord of the Rings. Someone said blowing bubbles. Someone said I have that clown. I need to kick rather than box. Yeah. However feels really good. So if you can allow yourself, can we just do a little tapping on this?
Mm-hmm.
Karate chop. Even though I often make hard harder,
Even though I often make hard harder.
and part of me wants to hold on to the hardness.
And part of me wants to hold on to the hardness.
It's been my buddy for a long time.
Yeah, it's been my buddy for a long time.
I am open to making the hard a little bit easier.
I am open to making the hard a little easier
And maybe more fun.
and maybe more fun.
Top of the head, can I really allow this?
Can I really allow this?
Eyebrow, can I put on the angry girl music when I clean?
Can I put on the angry girl music when I clean?
Side of the eye, can I blow bubbles?
Can I blow bubbles?
Under the eye, can I co-work with someone?
Can I co-work with someone?
Under the nose, can I have regular breaks?
Can I have regular breaks?
Chin, what can I do to make this a little easier and more fun?
What can I do to make this a little easier and more fun?
Collarbone, how can I practice creating this for myself?
How can I practice creating this for myself?
Under the arm, even if it feels a little uncomfortable.
Even if it feels hard.
Top of the head, I'm really open to creating more ease and fun for myself.
I'm really open to creating more ease and fun for myself.
Yeah, just take a breath. And see if you can, again, a lot of us this wasn't modeled for us often when we were kids. It's like my school was like, you have to sit still and just tough it through and get it all done. And my mom was like, you can have fun later. She's one of those, you can do it later. And she never gives her, it's never later. There's never
later
time that you can just sit and relax. So, we may not have the muscles for this, but if we could build them in and actually allow our survival brain to do the comparison thing a little bit, like, okay, we've chosen to do this thing because of our why. Remembering the why we want to do it can make a difference. But we've chosen to do it. How can I make, getting from here to there more entertaining? We don't have to sit in the car upright with stale bread and crackers. We can bring fun road food and good music and some games with us. And we can take a break every once in a while and stretch our legs. We don't have to do it all in one fell swoop and muscle our way through it and then never want to touch it again. So, and I think also we talked about breaking it up into baby steps. So a lot of times I'll think of I want to write a book or I want to get a new job. If I just think of it as a block, it's too big. It's like, I don't even know. Yes. But if I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull up my resume. I'm just going to pull it out and I'm going to send it to 2 people I care about to review that know me. Okay, that's done for now. I've completed that step. I can go do something else. I can come back. They've sent me some feedback. Okay, I'm just going to incorporate the feedback. And my brain's automatically thinking, who am I sending this to? No. I'm just incorporating the feedback that I think is valid. I break it into steps. Then I stop. I go do something else. I come back. Can I apply to 2 jobs? Or can I do some research for 2 jobs? Not all the jobs that ever existed anywhere in the world, which is what my brain wants to do. I'm just going to do 2. So if you can, breaking it into baby steps, and our brain wants to get the hard done so we can relax, but then we really kind of it's too big and too hard often to do that. What's one step or one thing, one little chunk you can do can really help it seem like if your goal is to get in shape, you're not going to go to the gym and work out until your arms fall off. That's not going to actually serve you. But if you can just do one little thing that will help. Someone shared breaking the boulder into small rocks. Yeah. Someone else thinking of the fun things I can do today after I get the hard thing done, making new friends, exploring new things, rewards. So reminding yourself the why, the positive outcome, and then also rewarding yourself if that feels good to you. I also tend to forget, when I'm doing something hard, I forget how good I feel when I actually accomplish something. My brain erases that until it actually happens. I'm like, oh, if I knew I'd feel this good, I would have done it 3 days ago. But I don't remember that in the moment. But having actually accomplished something that's really important to me, there's a really good dopamine rush that often occurs. And my sense of self-esteem, my well-being go up. I'm doing the laundry feeling good about myself because I sent out those resumes or whatever. If we can remember, there is an internal reward when we've accomplished something that matters to us.
I'll put in my vote and encouragement for the enhancements. So when I read something or I hear something like thinking of all the fun things I can do today after I get the hard thing done. Well, I'm the boss of my own schedule for the most part, which means that unless the hard thing is going to cost me so much to not get done, and there are these fun things I want to do, I'll go directly to the fun things and I won't get the hard thing done. And so, like, I am working on a book, and the enhancement, like for the chapter, was I'm going to go to a different space. Now, why would I choose that? Well, I work from home, the family's here. If I go to a different space, like to go for a walk, I know that my energy changes. So that if I go to a coffee shop, and also I've been missing like the vibe of a coffee shop all through COVID, didn't go, hadn't really found one in my hometown that I really was resonating with. Well, guess what? I found a coffee shop. I go to the coffee shop. I get my vanilla cappuccino. I sit down and I use my computer just to draft on the topic that I've decided that I'm going to do. Is it still hard? Oh, yeah, it's still hard. But there's a quality of it's hard, but I'm also thriving in it too, in the sense that I'm engaging with something that matters to me. I'm really clear why it matters to me. I'm getting to be in a vibe of a business that I'm not having to tend to. I'm a customer. I'm not one of the co-creators. I get to enjoy a taste that's different. I get to enjoy people, and their vibe is like there were some people across the way and they were working on a project together, and the vibe of that was like, oh, I needed that actually react. Oh, I'm finding it easier to do this. There's a pillow there that I really like the look of it. I put it behind my back. I don't necessarily want to own the pillow. I wouldn't go out and buy it, but it's nice. There's a black leather sofa that I wouldn't buy, but it's actually got a good energy for me. Do you see what we're doing here? Is we're looking, and I had to go through this process because this project, the book project, had become so hard that it was a 10 and nothing was happening on it. So I had to look at like what was making it so hard. And there were layers, and I took off a brick and took off a big boulder. And I got it down to a place where, yeah, look, it matters to me. If I didn't care, maybe it wouldn't be so hard. But there's nourishment in it. There's a value in doing the hard work, and I get to share. So, I'm not holding the expectation that it's going to be easy, or that so where I land is that there's nothing wrong with this having hardness to it. It's vulnerable. It's courageous. It requires integration. It requires spiritual connection, even in the middle of a coffee shop. It asks of me to show up in ways that are good for me and hard. So I hope that encourages. And if you have something that's hard that you'd like to explore more fully, the link where the replay is going to be, it's out of thrivingnow.center. We'd love to hear from you and engage with you around this subject. This is the beginning of the continued cultivation of these real skills that contribute to being more calm and confident with what life brings and what we are inspired to take action around.
Yeah, I really appreciate everybody. If you can, just let yourself realize this is a really tough topic to walk into, and you just did this for an hour and a half with us. And if you can do this for an hour and a half, I bet you could do whatever's challenging for you if you clear, maybe do a few minutes of tapping, clearing, figuring out how to make it fun. Could you do 10 minutes of the thing that you've been avoiding or the thing that's really hard? And if you do 10 minutes, you start to build confidence and build the muscles. So you don't have to build up all the muscles at once, but just in little chunks. And something that's super challenging to me, I've broken it into 20-second chunks. Like literally, I'm going to look up a phone number. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to run away and not think about it for the rest of the day. But I did the thing. So if you can, give yourself the opportunity to build those muscles so life can be a lot more fun and creative for yourselves. So thank you.
all. Thank you for being a part
Thank
of
you,
this.
everyone.
And we love your feedback if that is useful to you, and follow-up questions, and the shared wisdom that rises as you start applying this more consciously in your own life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cathy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Bye
great
for
day.
now.